resilient people have a vision of a better life, and happy people have a better. We've got to have hope, and we get hope by having that picture in our mind of how our life can be and will be, because everything starts as an idea. More confidence starts as an idea in your mind. You think, I could be more confident than I am now. You start paying attention, you start doing different things, and you move towards that picture. Happiness, even happiness begins as an idea in our mind. More money in the bank begins as a thought. Initially, wouldn't it be nice, but that would never happen, and we work on it, and it becomes, well, maybe it's possible to, okay, what could I do, to a point where we begin to implement some strategies, but it just began as an idea.
Hello and welcome to episode 127 of Toward a Better Life, and here is some music from Denise, London to start the show and to kind of set the mood for how we're going to look at this episode.
Silverbird, I hear you calling, whispering my name. Though the night looms like a shadow, I know why you sing. Silverbird, child of the moon, what is your flight plan tonight? Break away forever, never return until the dawn. Silverbird, you can feel the light around you, so you close your eyes. Share with me this time of wonder under raven skies. Silverbird, child of the moon, what is your flight plan tonight? Silverbird, break away forever and never return until the dawn.
Thanks again, Denise. That was great. The podcast we have is Toward a Better Life, and it's, of like-minded people sharing their stories, ideas, and activities on what we all can do to generate a better life as individuals and collectively. In today's world, there is a need to seek balance, harmony, compassion, kindness on so many levels, personally, culturally, spiritually, to name a few, but it all begins with each one of us as individuals. And that's what I like to share on our podcast, from around the world seeking others of the same spirit, heart, and mind. This is a platform and a school, a venue to begin and continue that journey to wholeness and harmony. I also offer the opportunity to share your prose, music, poetry, or storytelling on the show, just like Denise London did in this episode. Please subscribe to the program if you haven't done so already through your favorite podcast platform, and keep following for weekly magical insights into earth-based spirituality, self-development, and self-care. Also, remember to support the program by leaving your review on Apple and Spotify podcast. It only takes a moment to leave the review, so please do so. Please be sure to visit my website, towardaBetterLife.com. You can also contact me to learn more about a free discovery call to help you on your journey. Send all inquiries to me, Kevin, at TowardABetterLife.com. Now, on to this episode's chat. But before we do that, let's take just a moment and think about happiness. And this can certainly be challenging in our present day. Then there's another one, resilience, regardless of what life hands out to us. Or how about gratitude? You say, gratitude with what I'm going through? Well, being truly thankful for the little things in life, and beginning or ending each day with thoughts of gratitude. Today, we're going to be talking to Australian author and international speaker Andrew Matthews, who's going to address some of this stuff. Andrew's books include Being Happy, Following Your Heart, and Bouncing Back. They all speak to happiness, resilience, and gratitude, and so much more. He has sold over, wait for it, 8 million copies in 48 languages. Must be something to this. And he has presented to over 1,000 corporations on 5 continents. Today, we're privileged and we're very happy to welcome him. We're going to learn some fundamentals of bouncing back with Andrew Matthews on Toward a Better Life. Today I'm having the opportunity to talk with Andrew Matthews from, can I say down under, Andrew? Is that acceptable?
You can. I'm down under and in far north Queensland. And
Okay.
It's tomorrow here, Kevin.
Yes, I know. I've interviewed a few folks from across the pond, down under, and around, and I'm getting used to the idea of different time zones. And I commend you, sir. It's like 6 o'clock and a little bit in the morning there for you, and it's like 4 in the afternoon for me. And we'll just see how we go. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Everybody, I want to mention that Andrew has written some books. And Andrew sent me a copy of his latest book, Bouncing Back. And I got to tell you, Andrew, that I had a real hard time putting it down. It's delightful. That's where I'll start with it. But tell us a little bit about Andrew and what you love to do, which is obvious to me, but maybe not so to the people, and just help them know.
Well, Kevin, I've been drawing for 50 years. I was drawing and painting as a 5-year-old, and I never stopped. So when it came to writing a book, maybe I can digress and say why I wrote my first book, Being Happy. At 25, I made a shocking discovery. I discovered that the happiest people I knew had bigger problems than me. And suddenly I had no excuse. And I was puzzled. I mean, I thought that when my life got easier, I would become happier. And yet I noticed that there were people who were dealing with cancer, or they'd gone broke, or they'd lost loved ones way too soon. And these people had a better attitude than I did. And that set me on a journey of reading over 200 books about happiness and attitude and the subconscious, trying to figure out how happy people deal with challenges and how I could be more like them. And that led to me writing my first book, Being Happy. And I've now written a series of 12 books that are looking at happiness or enjoying work or bouncing back from disaster and disappointment, as bouncing back is. And so it's a joy for me not only to write these books in hopefully what is a very simple way, but I illustrate my books with cartoons, and it's just such a joy to try to put concepts and ideas and helpful reminders into a cartoon.
Well, I have to say that before we started recording, you mentioned about one of the things you like to do when we're doing audio, and we don't, I mean, we see each other, but the audience doesn't see. And I'm looking at the cover over your right shoulder, bouncing back, and I see this guy that is basically elated. He's doing a tiptoe on his right foot, and he's got his left foot at 90 degrees to the ground, and he's wearing something very similar to what I would call a Where's Waldo shirt, or perhaps your football shirt. And he's just obviously elated. He's just he's just glowing with happiness and joy, and he's bouncing back. That's the premise.
Yeah. So, I mean, our minds work on pictures, they don't work on words. And so, if we can see an image that represents, I mean, uh, if I describe, there's a cartoon at the beginning of Bouncing Back where there's a guy climbing a mountain and he's sweating and exhausted and looks pretty unhappy. And even his dog is sweating, and his dog looks like he doesn't want to be there either. So they're both climbing this mountain. And the caption is, "What you thought was breaking you is probably making you."
Mm.
And we can see that picture once, and maybe we feel like this guy, and we're reminded that very often it's the things that we didn't want to go through that turn us into the people that we want to be. In other words, no one is born extraordinary. We become extraordinary by facing challenges that we didn't choose.
That's I couldn't no way can I say anything any better. You're on a roll. And everyone, if you want to know what Andrew is like in his books, it's just have a listen for the next little while while we are together. And if you haven't done it, well, obviously, if you're driving down the road, please don't do it while you're driving down the road. But as soon as you can, you need to order a copy of this book. I mean, there's so many little bits and pieces. I'm going to call them little treasures, little nuggets. In the book, you've got a guy standing on top of a bunch of stones, and it's got depth, rejection, loneliness, failure, bullying, all, and it's got other stuff I choose to forget with this look of, oh my God, can't take any more. But that's what it is, isn't it? I mean, we just need to understand that all these things are brought in for a reason.
Yeah. And the fact that when we look around and we see what other people have been through, and I mentioned some of those people in the book. I tell probably 60 stories of people that have overcome disappointment or serious tragedy. People that have gone broke, people that one woman I wrote about was on a marathon in outback Australia, and she was caught in a wildfire and suffered burns to 65% of her body, had to have 7 of her fingers amputated, told that she would never walk again. Her name is Turia Pitt. And now she's windsurfing. She ran the Ironman in Hawaii.
Wow.
She's written 3 best-selling books. She's married her childhood sweetheart. I mean, she's incredibly scarred, but it hasn't stopped her. And the thing that she says is, even though I've had 200 operations to even get the use of my body back, she said, I feel that my life is better now than it was before the accident. And I read something like that and I think, well, if she can do that,
Yeah.
then, if someone cuts me off on the freeway, how important is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's all about, we find in life what we look for, Kevin. I've got one cartoon in Bouncing Back. It's 2 panels. So the first panel is a little guy and he's eating a slice of cake. And the caption to the first panel is, happy people focus on what they have. And he's got his little slice of cake, looking very happy. And the second panel, you see a very miserable looking fellow. He's got one huge entire cake minus one slice. and he's looking at the missing slice, and the caption says, "Unhappy people focus on what's missing."
Mm-hmm.
And we all know people who have so much, and yet they just can't find happiness. And if we look for good things in our job, we look for good things in where we live or our country or our friends or our family, we find them. And if we look for things that are wrong with our situation, then we find those too. So, yeah, it's people say, why a book called Bouncing Back? Because we're all bouncing back from something. We're bouncing back from maybe spending too much or eating too much, or a promotion that we thought we were going to get, but we didn't, or a relationship that started out well. It's so helpful if we remind ourselves about the things that resilient people do. And resilient people just do certain things. And when we do what they do, life gets better.
That does. Your book shares what struck me too as well. And you've already mentioned that you have like 60 or so different stories that are in your book. But what's really unique, the way they're presented is they share real stories about real people who, despite the troubles and virtual barricades, they make changes. And the big factor that I see in all of this is they made an effort to make things work. And sometimes that effort doesn't take a whole lot. Just like the person you just said. I mean, she went through how many operations, and yet she goes out and she goes against Iron Man. I mean, my
Yeah.
goodness, that's a lot to go through. And yet sometimes when we look at some of the things that we do, some of the stuff that we want to accomplish, it doesn't take that much more, but it does take effort at some level.
Yeah. So there are probably, I talk about 7 things that resilient people do in bouncing back. But if we look
Mhm.
at 3,
Yep.
the first one is uh, happy people and resilient people are able to accept things that they don't like. And if you get the sack, or if your fiance dumps you, or you break your leg, like anyone, you're probably going to say, "Well, this is the last thing I needed. Doesn't seem fair." Um, or maybe it's someone else's fault. And it's almost like we say to ourselves, if I don't accept this, then I won't be stuck with it. But in fact, the reverse is true. And as soon as we say, I wouldn't have chosen this, but I accept that I've got it, then we're able to move on. And so acceptance is power, and acceptance is the first stage to creating a happier life. It's the first stage to bouncing back. So number 1 is acceptance. Number 2 is that we understand that we're not going to fix this issue probably in one day. So we just do what I do what I can today. I focus on what's going to have the most chance of progress, fixing my situation. And then I don't worry about tomorrow until tomorrow arrives. I do the best I can tomorrow. And that's what resilient people do. And the third thing is that resilient people have a vision of a better life. And
Mm.
happy people have a better, we've got to have hope.
Hmm.
And we get hope by having that picture in our mind of how our life can be and will be. Because everything starts as an idea. More
Hmm.
confidence starts as an idea in your mind. You think, I could be more confident than I am now. You start paying attention. You start doing different things, and you move towards that picture. Happiness, even happiness begins as an idea in our mind. More money in the bank begins as a thought. Initially, wouldn't it be nice, but that would never happen. And we work on it, and it becomes, well, maybe it's possible to, okay, what could I do, to a point where we begin to implement some strategies, and we have some money in the bank, but it just began as an idea. So we need that vision. So those 3 things is accepting where I am now, biting off life in little chunks, doing our best each day, and having a vision for a better life.
Wow. That's it too. Acceptance and biting. How many times have we heard, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at
Yeah.
a time, and
Yes.
it's cliche, but
Yeah.
the only sad thing about the cliche is we've heard it so many times and we say, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I still have this problem. Well, take a bite out of it. Just do one little thing. It's little bits. And then having the vision, and the vision is I'm going to feel really better tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And then 6 months down the road, look back at where you were and say, wow, look what I did. And it's because the magic word, resilience. It is moving
Yeah.
forward with those things, accepting what we have. So all of these things they they're before us, but we need to grasp them. We need to embrace them. And that's what I think your book really does, because it doesn't go into a lot of scientific research. It doesn't go into a lot of statistics. It doesn't go into all these other things. It just says this is what life is about and this is what you can do with it, right?
Yes, Kevin. What people want more than anything are simple steps.
Hmm.
They want encouragement. They want hope.
Yeah.
They want my readers. In fact, when I received all my rejections for my first book, a publisher said, "What we're concerned about is you're not a psychologist. You're not a psychologist, and you've got all these cartoons in a self-help book." But when my readers finally got hold of it, they said, "What we like is that you're not a psychologist, and it's got all these cartoons." Which probably points to something else, and that is that people don't know what they want until they get it, and then they say, "Well, this is great." Um, so yeah, that idea of little steps. I got an email a couple of years ago from a guy called Akash Karia, and he said, "I attended your talk in Hong Kong in 2005. And he said at the end of your presentation, he said, I was the last guy in the queue. You were signing books and I couldn't even afford a book. But I asked you the question, how do you write a book? And he said, you gave me the best tip that I ever received. He said, write one page a day. And he said, today I've written 16 books. They're in 6 languages. And I have a global coaching business
Hmm.
and a corporate training business. I train companies like Sony, all based on these books that I've written. And I just write one page a day."
Little
Yeah.
bits. And the thing that I haven't mentioned, and I think it should be said, and you just mentioned about how many languages he's had and how many books he sold, and I think it's really good. But it says a lot when you have sold over 8 million copies in 48 languages. You've presented to over 1,000 corporations on 5 continents. So you must be doing something right. It must be accepted at some level. And it sounds to me like people really do appreciate it when you say, like, you're not a psychologist, you're not a doctor, and I'm not putting any of that down, but you're approaching people where they are, not where they should be.
Yes. And I'm a packager of information. A lot of things a lot of principles that I write about. I mean, I didn't invent and I didn't discover, but I may frame them in a way that just simple things, simple ideas that are easier to understand and hopefully enjoyable to read about.
Yeah. So why don't we give people an example? Because we talked about this before we recorded, and there's one little piece that kind of stuck out to me. There are many, but I said this could be interesting to share on the program. So, uh, go ahead and you said you might try to maybe do a description, so I'm going to let you have it and just share a little bit from your book, Bouncing Back.
Okay, Kevin. So this is the story of the king and the boulder, and I've drawn a cartoon of a whole bunch of townsfolk who are unable to get to their town because there's a huge boulder across the only path or track into their town, and they're looking dispirited and upset. And there's even a chicken who doesn't look very happy. So this is the story. Zen Buddhists tell of an ancient king who grew unhappy with the citizens of his kingdom. His people had become lazy and soft, and he decided to teach them a lesson. The king organized for a big boulder to be placed across the only road into the city. He then hid nearby to see how the townsfolk would react. A crowd soon gathered at the boulder, and several people made weak attempts to shift the big rock. Others simply complained, "What bad luck! The king should fix the roads." Eventually, a poor peasant came by. He pushed and shoved the boulder with all his might, but it wouldn't budge. The peasant disappeared into a nearby forest and returned with a log. He placed the log against the big rock and pulled it like a big lever. He struggled and strained, and behold, the boulder rolled aside. And beneath the boulder, the peasant found a gift from the king, a purse filled with gold and a note. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget, within every obstacle is the opportunity to improve our situation.
Mm, that's it. The boulder becomes the path, and
Yeah.
within every problem.
With every situation,
Thank
or
you.
within every challenge, within every problem, uh, every obstacle is the opportunity to improve our situation.
Yeah.
And how often does something happen that we think, this is the last thing I needed? You're at the airport and your flight is cancelled, and you say, you know, this is the last thing I needed. And stranded there for 6 hours, you make a friend or you read a book that changes your life. How often do things happen that we say, your girlfriend dumps you and you say, I thought we were going to be like forever friends. I thought this was my soulmate, my life partner.
Mm.
And so you go about your way and you meet them 10 years later and you breathe a sigh of relief and you think, wow, I dodged a bullet.
Yeah. We see and we hear different stories through life, and we think about, just like you just said, that you're waylaid at an airport, you run into a person who basically changes your life. And sometimes we would ask the question, "Well, I met that person, but they came into my life. Are they the right person?" And the answer is to that, in other words, no one comes into our lives by chance. And all the people around us who interact with us, who commune with us, there's always a reason. And how often have we heard that? There's always a reason. But we get so engrossed and so immersed into whatever it is, activity or what have you, that we may miss, I'll use the word blessing, that's right there in front of us. And we just don't stop long enough to listen or see or feel or touch.
And if we have a hard time believing that everything happens for a reason, if we can pretend, we begin by saying, let's assume, what if I was meant to have this flat tire right here? What if this is going to rearrange my day in some perfect way? And so often it happens. We think we're going to get a job and we don't get it, and we say, this is a disaster that was mine. And then we look back in a year's time and we say, how lucky, how thankful am I that I didn't get what I thought was meant to be mine. And so happy and resilient people are able to say, well, I wouldn't have chosen this, and I'm not sure what's good about it. There's an entrepreneur that I knew, and whenever anything would happen that looked like a disaster, maybe he would lose a key client, or his secretary would quit, and he'd say, "That is great," and I don't know why. In other words, rather than waiting, he would just assume, this is the universe plotting to make my life better.
Yeah, yeah.
So we make our plans, and we set ourselves goals, but at the same time we understand that very often. Here's the thing. Many things that we try, even no matter how successful we might appear to be by those around us, many things that we try don't work. We build a website hoping that people will come, and they don't. We create a YouTube video thinking, well, this is bound to go viral, and it doesn't. We write an ad that we think, well, this is the solution, or we send a manuscript to a publisher, or even we go on a first date thinking, maybe this is going to be the one, this person, this blind date tonight. And halfway through the evening, we think, well, maybe not. So many things that we try don't work out as well as we'd hope they would. But here's the thing. If we can enjoy the process, and we get up every day and do our best, then one day, usually when we least expect it, something happens that is even better than we imagined.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to be out there giving our best in the meantime.
Right. And I wanted to jump right on that because, when we say that about plans and make the gods laugh and so forth, that's true, but it doesn't mean that we're going to sit on our tufts and just wait for stuff to happen. It's not that at all. We should continue to move forward. We should continue to make plans. We should continue to do whatever it is that we find joy in doing, and that's okay. I suppose the thing that I would say is be willing to adjust when the time comes. Be willing to understand, like you said already, about how there is a time that maybe it's time for something to end. And that's okay too, because we just keep moving and we keep moving forward and we keep maintaining that resilience that you talk about. And it's all very, very important. But one of the things too that I think is important is that as we move through these things, we can ask ourselves a question, first of all, and I think you've already mentioned it. I think you mentioned it in the book a few times about what can I learn from this situation? What is there for me to learn about this, about either myself, my current state of affairs? There's a lesson for any of this. There's a lesson for this if I just stop long enough in the midst of whatever that perceived crisis might be to say, okay, let me take a breath and just let me assess. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. I mean, and if all of us, those of us that are listening to the podcast, we think of our own experience to date and we say, when have I learned the most? It's not from your successes.
Right. Yeah.
We learn so much more from failure. I mean, success we celebrate, but failure hurts, and we contemplate and we think, well, how can I avoid that, or how can I do it better? And it's not failure that crushes us anyway. What hurts most is never having tried. When we get to be 85, 90 years old and we look back in our lives, what's going to worry us are not the things that didn't work. Plenty of things might have worked. What will really crush us, knowing is the things that we could have done, but we didn't.
Mm.
This is the online business that I could have started. These are the vacations that me and my family could have taken.
Mm-hmm.
This is the degree that I talked about getting. These are the trips. This is the time that I could have stood up for myself or for someone else and didn't. This was the girl in the coffee shop that I was always going to talk to but didn't.
Yeah.
It's the things that we didn't even try that will tear away at us, not our failures. So once we get that, then hopefully, I mean, just that one idea can change our life.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, why do you write these books about happiness and attitude and resilience? You only need one idea that you hang on to change the trajectory of your life. There was a point in my life where I was concerned that, well, basically, I was 25. I realized a third of my life might already be over. And I kind of did an inventory, and romance, not that good. Money in the bank, not that impressive. Was I enjoying my work days? Not so much. I thought I need to change this. And so I made a decision that I was going to embrace opportunities like I never had before, and I would be happier than I ever was before because I would just choose to look for good things. And I even remember the day. It was the 19th of October, 1983.
Mm.
And my life, at least the direction of my life, changed on that day from a decision I made. And I adopted like a personal motto, which was, if in doubt, do it.
Mm.
And not to do, dangerous things that might kill
Right.
me,
Right.
but anything that came along that I thought could be exciting, things that I might have shied away from or said that's too hard or that's too difficult, or do I even want to go to that dinner or that party or do that course, or I did it. And one idea can change our life. And part of that can be making a decision that from now on I'm going to be happier.
There you go. And that's the pursuit. And we're talking about the resilience, and we're talking about, owning some of these different things and pursuing and acceptance and so forth. And these are all really good. And something else that is so important to me anyway is gratitude. Learning to be thankful for what
Yes.
we do have. How many times, Andrew, have you heard or seen the concept of how do you begin a meditation or how do you begin your day? If you begin your day with an idea of gratitude, that'll shape your day. And so, why does gratitude really matter, do you suppose?
Well, you can't be grateful and angry at the same time.
Mm.
That's a good reason. You
Yeah.
can't be grateful and resentful at the same time.
Yeah.
And gratitude is really our foundation for happiness
Mm.
because it gets us out of ourselves, and it starts to have us focusing on even the little things that are around us that are wonderful. And a lot of us, and I do this, a lot of us make little lists of what are three things I'm grateful for today.
Mm.
And they don't need to be big things. I mean, it's even better if they're little things.
Yeah.
If you can see a flower or a bird through your window, someone might say, well, that's only a little thing. But if you look at happy people,
Mm.
that's the difference about happy people. They're grateful for little things.
Yeah.
They're not saying, well, I'll be happy when I get a Ferrari. They're happy for something tiny.
Mm.
And the more that we can celebrate the little things that bring us joy, the more that we become like the happiest people that we can find.
You just quoted one of the things that I used to sign my book with, and that is look to the little things for the greatest treasures in life.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I would sign
beautiful.
the books with that. And I said, and then the other one was, there are others that I would use, but that one really stuck out to me a lot. And I don't know, I have no idea where it came from. It doesn't matter where it came from, but it was to me significant. And you look at stuff like that, and we don't know why it is that different things come into our life, but it teaches us to value everything. In the what I like to look at with nature spirituality, for an example, is to look at every teeny tiny detail, listen to every tiny detail, listen to everything, look to everything, open yourself to all things. There's a tree, for an example, in the greenway where we walk. And today we're going to go by it again. And I was told by one of my friends in our hearth of the Druid group that I belong with, and because I described it to her, I said, that tree, the aroma from that tree is luscious. Now, if you look up the word luscious, it has nothing to do with aromas. It talks about, the taste of a fine wine or the taste of a really great steak. And I said, no, that flower on that tree is luscious because it's delicious in its own way and it's beautiful. And the crazy thing, Andrew, the crazy thing is what maybe, I don't know, 4.5, 5 inches in diameter. It's white and it looks okay. But when you lean in and take a whiff, it's those little things. So I'm with you 1,000%. Look for those little things. They're wonderful when you look at them. There's also something else that I noticed, and that is some qualities that most of us value. And that's right out of your book. It says the qualities most of us value above all others are honesty, courage, persistence, generosity, humility, resilience, and kindness. That's some wonderful outlooks to have, and those are some wonderful words to live by. Is there anything that you can add to those and how we would look at those?
Yes. We can sometimes look at other people who may be breathtakingly beautiful or extraordinarily talented. And we might say, if only I was like them. But in actual fact, there's many people who are either beautiful or talented that we wouldn't really want to be like,
Mm,
or we don't especially admire. And the qualities that we most appreciate in people are things like humility and kindness and generosity and resilience.
mm,
You aren't born with those, you develop them. So the exciting thing is that the greatest qualities that a person can have, you don't need to be born with them. You can develop them just one day at a time and work at being a better friend and being a kinder, more generous, more humble, more resilient human. So it's there for all of us,
yeah,
and that's an exciting thing.
it is. And I can't help but I'm not going to go down the political thing, but our world today is really in need of this book. Really, I believe that. With everything that's going on around us, if we would just take the time to think about bouncing back, think about being happy. And it goes back to that part that you said a little while ago about the two people on the two panels. One has that wonderful piece of sliced cake and is just overjoyed with that one piece of sliced cake. And you have the other person on the other panels with a whole cake minus one piece, and he's disappointed. It's all in how you look at stuff, isn't it? There was a saying that was around decades ago, look to the praise, no, excuse me, look to the good and praise it. And I appreciate so much what you also mentioned as if we go through life and we look for the negative stuff or we look for bad stuff, guess what we're going to find? That's what we're going to find. If you
Yeah.
focus on the good,
Yeah.
if you focus on beauty, if you focus on love and happiness and honesty, that's what you're going to find. And the other stuff just isn't going to matter anymore. And that's what I truly believe can shift our whole world. I really do believe that.
Yeah. So our life doesn't change by worrying about what's on the outside. our life changes by changing how we think about our situation. And in terms of looking for good, a big part of that is also in how we see ourselves. People say, do you really need to love yourself? Well, you need to at least like yourself. Why? Because we create the life that we feel we deserve. And if I don't like myself, I will stay with a partner that treats me badly. I will stay in a job where I'm unappreciated. I will eat and drink things that in effect punish me. And I will overlook opportunities because I think I don't really deserve a special life. And I will even subconsciously sabotage relationships because I think I don't deserve to be loved. So we say, do I need to love myself? You have to at least like yourself. You have to say, I may not be perfect, but I'm living life the best way I know how. One of the things we can do is we can get a picture of ourselves when we were maybe 3 years old, when we didn't have all the answers and we were just living life the best way we knew. And we put that somewhere where we can see it every day on our refrigerator or on our desk. And we treat ourselves the way that we would treat that little 3-year-old. Because we still don't have all the answers, and we're still just living life the best way we can.
That's beautiful. That's spot on. So a couple of things is, first off, how do people get in touch with Andrew if they would like to reach out and connect with you? I know that your book is available on Amazon, but let's go on from there.
Yeah, so I have a website, andrewmatthews.com. So Matthews has 2 T's. Andrew Matthews is all one word. So I do a newsletter every 2 weeks, which is usually about 100 words with a cartoon, very brief, because I know we're all busy, but I just want a little bit of joy and an uplifting thought to share. And if you become too happy, you can unsubscribe at any time. And all of my books are on Amazon. So Being Happy, which was my first book, I've done a book called Follow Your Heart, which is about enjoying work. Books like Happiness Now and Happiness in a Nutshell. And 2 of my books, Follow Your Heart and Bouncing Back, are available in audio. If you like your Audible books done with an Australian accent, that's me. And the books are available in ebook or in hard copy as well.
This has been delightful. This has been grand. This has been happy.
The reason I mentioned my website is because there, apart from the newsletter, there's some other resources and other things that you can find there as well. Yeah.
What does Andrew Matthews do to create a better life for himself? I think we have an idea, but let's hear it again.
Well, number one, I get up every day and do my best because I believe doing our best at whatever's in front of us, whatever's under our nose, makes us happier. I'm blessed to have a beautiful wife, Julie, who became my publisher. And so we work together and we laugh together, and I'm forever grateful for her helping to take my books to the world. And I have a belief that joy comes from making a contribution. So a lot of what I do in writing books and giving presentations, my entire focus is in creating little nuggets, and you used the word, little nuggets of information and a cartoon, which anyone can understand, that is going to give them a better tomorrow.
Any other thoughts that you would like to share with our audience before we close?
That happiness is, in most cases, a daily decision. It is something that we choose. We've seen a 2-year-old playing on the furniture and he falls on his head, and the first thing he does is he looks around to see who's watching, and based on the audience he decides, am I going to laugh or cry? And we think that's really cute. But we forget that we do the same thing. We're out on the freeway and someone cuts in front of us, and we're making it a decision instantly. Am I going to laugh or cry? We're always choosing. Maybe 20 times a day, things are happening. We're getting a bill, someone's creating a noise that disturbs us. We figure that a checkout person at the supermarket is unfriendly. 20 times a day, we have an opportunity to say, is this going to upset me? Or can I find joy here? And can I see things from the other point of view? We're choosing happiness every moment.
Great. This has been delightful, as I said, Andrew. Thanks ever so much. And go spread some joy and go find the joy that is obvious on your face. You're wonderful. Thanks so much.
Kevin, just an absolute delight. I thank you.
Well, that's our show for now. We certainly hope you enjoyed it. Wasn't it great? Feeling happier, more resilient, sensing gratitude? Well, you can find all the links in the show to connect you with Andrew Matthews. His work and books are all in the show notes. And speaking of help, if you are seeking insights and advice on how to create a better life for yourself, and if you'd like to dive into some self-care, self-development, distant shamanic work, Reiki, gratitude, all that good stuff, drop me a line to kevin@towardabetterlife.com for a free discovery call. You can also visit my website, towardabetterlife.com, for past episodes, blog entries, ways to enhance your spiritual journey, and a few products to assist you on that journey. Send all your inquiries to me, kevin@towardabetterlife.com. Please do subscribe to the program through your favorite podcast platform and leave a review if you would on Apple and Spotify podcast. It helps to spread the word about the podcast and helps to create, well, a better life for all of us. If you've got questions, if you'd like to share your story, your music, your prose, if it's an audio file, by the way, please send it to me as an MP3, or if you just want to be my guest, please do write me, kevin@towardabetterlife.com. Until next week, enjoy your magical journey toward a better life.